All right, everyone, welcome. We had a couple of technical difficulties, so we're not quite live on Facebook, but we are here on Facebook. I'm Pat Kane with Public Affairs, and this is Tom Bannard, who's Program Coordinator with Ramps of Recovery, which is part of the WELL here in Student Services.
Yeah.
So, the holidays can be a really challenging time for anyone, for students, faculty, staff. But for students that are leaving campus and have made some headway in recovery, that can be even more challenging. So, I guess to start with, what is collegiate recovery and what does that look like here at VCU?
Yeah, so I like to think of collegiate recovery kind of as a movement that we are one of over 100 schools that have structured supports for students in recovery, with the idea that students shouldn't have to choose between their recovery and their education. Most people don't argue with me when I say, most college campuses are a recovery hostile environment. So for us, we just believe when we support students that are in recovery, not only do they thrive academically and in their recovery, but they really become a key part of our campus culture and really have positive influences all around them. So we have structured supports here. We have recovery housing. We have a recovery clubhouse and a number of recovery support meetings. And then we do a little bit of what we're doing here, which is we try to create recovery allies on campus. We try to help people that are not in recovery, be more supportive and also be people that can positively intervene on folks' life if they are struggling.
Gotcha. So reaching those students, but kind of beyond that as well.
Yeah.
So, it can be hard on any student to leave campus, but I imagine for someone that's made some progress getting away from bad, people or behaviors or habits and on that recovery path, that can be an especially hard time. What kind of challenges are there for folks in recovery as we look at the holiday season?
Yeah, so I think that most people have challenges over just kind of family and holidays, and that it's not an easy time for everybody. Not everybody has kind of family situations that are super comfortable, and I think that it's not just people with substance use disorders that use substances, use alcohol, especially to cope with dealing with family over the holidays. So. So there's that, and that just kind of there's more drinking than usual in general in people's houses and
for sure.
People's parties and holiday parties and all that. So it's a high drinking time. We sometimes call it Christmas and New Year's is kind of amateur days where everybody gets in on the party. And so if you're someone that used to drink on those holidays and are not drinking now, that can be a real challenge just to be around that much alcohol.
So even folks that aren't usually casual drinkers Monday through Friday, they might imbibe a little bit more at the holidays. So that's going to be even harder for someone that's maybe been sober, been on a recovery path for a couple of months, and to go back into that environment.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really works for people in recovery is, especially early recovery, is to remove themselves from situations where drinking is happening, and now suddenly they're kind of in this choice. Sometimes people have to choose between their families and their recovery because of what's going on in some of the holiday parties and that sort of thing. And so that's tough. And then of course people, especially in early recovery, often have a lot of guilt about whether they've missed holidays in the past, whether they've not been fully present, whether the damage that they've done in their addiction, and they may have a lot of guilt and shame around that journey, and so that can be another layer of challenge. And
so beyond just the presence or the activities, but then coming back in and kind of feeling those feelings and maybe being with that same family group or friend group that you've been away from or on a different path, to go back there and feel that shame or guilt. So that
absolutely. I even think about not Christmas specifically, but in early recovery, I didn't go back to my high school reunion because I didn't feel like I had kind of positive things to share about where my life was, and that changed over time. But early on, that was a challenge. I think some a lot of people have those feelings around family situations, but at the same time maybe not feel comfortable to opt out of those for this kind of early recovery period.
Gotcha. I gotcha. So, you know, I think alcohol is maybe the most obvious thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know, what other challenges are out there beyond, you know, kind of that second tier of people or situations that might make them folks feel ashamed or worried or kind of need to close off from what's around them?
Yeah, I think we all feel a lot of pressure around the holidays. If you have a tradition that is a present giving tradition, that can be especially challenging, especially if you're broke, which a lot of our students early on in their recovery journeys or later on in their recovery journeys are. There's a lot of pressure around that, and then everybody, I think, most people have this like desire to make their home seem a little more perfect than they really are.
You got that Hallmark movie vibe in the back of your head that you're trying to get to.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that that's some of the wisdom of folks in recovery is to want to have a sense of humor about that and kind of know that things have been far less perfect in our lives a lot of times. We've struggled a lot of times, and I think about my family that spent a time up in Pennsylvania over the Christmas. We celebrate Christmas and holiday, and I was in rehab, and they came and visited me in rehab. So the other thing that happens with folks in recovery is you get a different sense of perspective and appreciation for the kind of more important parts of the holiday season. Is that you don't we all have a lot of gratitude that we're not, I'm grateful that they showed up then, and I'm grateful that that's not what folks need to do with me or for me now. And I think our whole family has a different appreciation of holidays and being present because of that experience.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, talking about family and whether that's the family we are born into or we marry into or choose to be around, what are some ways that folks can be more mindful or more aware of this and better allied during this time of year?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think one of the questions is around do you have to serve alcohol at the gatherings? And if you decide, yes, we're going to serve alcohol at the gatherings, can you not make that the center of attention, right?
So not have that here front and center, but maybe a little less importance on it.
Yeah, can you put it in the side room and not where the food is and not where people gather? So people kind of have to go out of their way to get a drink versus, hey, it's everywhere around us.
Maybe have the punch in the water there.
Yeah,
Uncle Jimmy wants a scotch, you can ask for it.
Yeah, if you can have a separate bar for non-alcohol drinks, that's a good thing, and having attractive non-alcoholic drinks is a good idea for any party. As people don't drink for a lot of reasons other than just being in recovery, and having non-alcohol alternatives, that's just hospitality.
Well, and as you mentioned with the the amateur hour, I'm sure that applies to a lot of driving too. Our public safety officials are certainly busy this time of year with the DUIs, so that's probably another good reason to keep something else handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about the other things are really around communicating with your loved one that that their recovery is more important than being at any party. This kind of goes back to this kind of perfect family myth that we all at least it can relate to some extent. That oh, you have to be here the whole time. I think just a conversation about like, hey, bring your own vehicle if you can, or have you thought about having an escape route, or how can you support that person if they go to recovery meetings, make sure that they know that some of the meetings that are available. A lot of places have these marathon recovery meetings, and all day on the
So
holidays.
that resource that's there because they know folks are gonna be in need at that time because it is a
Yeah,
tough one.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a cool tradition. I'll never forget going to a recovery conference, and there's a guy there who organized this amazing alkathon that still happens, I think, in Chicago. That it's not just a day or 2 days. It's something like 14 days around the
Wow.
holiday. That there's meetings around the clock, and I'll never forget this guy explaining to it, just in tears, saying, I was really, really alone early on, and I never wanted anyone else to feel that alone. And so, like, he created
made
this
that
amazing
happen.
system where, there's just meetings around the clock for weeks and weeks. And for a lot of people that go to recovery meetings, that community really, that might be their only kind of family, or it may be the kind of boost that they need to kind of go back and be fully part of their own family experience.
To kind of get there, be present, and be able to carry on with their recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
When folks, Tom wrote a letter to the recovery community on campus, and that's what inspired me to chat with him about this topic. And in there, you had the line sort of that their recovery is important, and them being able to leave is important. And we talked through that, but that's a really powerful thing that I think even folks that are not in recovery might need to hear, that it's okay to step aside for a minute for your own sanity at this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's okay to take a break, and I just think that's a great part of being an ally as a family member, is that and to plan for recovery as a family, not just put all that responsibility on that individual. Certainly the individual has a lot of responsibility there, but can you have family conversations about that? Just saying, hey, your recovery is more important than any one party. So if you need to leave and go to a meeting, or go and do something else, you can do that. Please do that. We value your recovery. And just to know, that's kind of just a prerequisite. That's how, it's just like for other people taking their medication, or whatever different folks need to do to take care of their chronic health conditions. This is what we
So
need to do.
you're not going to shame, Uncle Jimmy needs to go and take his insulin. That's not something you're going to shame him for.
Yeah.
And we should extend the same to something that's
Yeah,
in recovery.
yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
absolutely.
So, for folks that, get home, obviously there's really strong research even here at VCU that says that these alcohol conditions and other substance abuse conditions, there is a genetic factor there.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they might be going back to what's not in the vacuum.
Right.
What resources, if they have a sibling or a parent that is having problems, what sort of resources could you connect a student to?
Yeah, so I think the first message to folks is there is hope. And that's really important, is that a lot of folks have plenty of consequences around their use, and what's kind of absent is hope, And so, my first message to folks that are in a position to help someone else around their substance use is to be hopeful, because recovery is possible. People do recover, they do get well, and there's more access to treatment in the U.S. than we've ever had. It's still not good enough, but there's a fair amount of treatment available. We have some resources that on the Wells website, recovery.vcu.edu, that is just kind of a guide for families, just starting points, that, here are some first steps that you can take if you're concerned about a loved one, and to just start to do something, do some research, see what's out there, talk to a professional about your use or your family member's use, and get some other perspective, because a lot of times what happens with families when there is substance use is we get really closed off because there's shame around substance
Mm-hmm.
use. So we stop talking outside of our immediate family system, and we may not even talk within our immediate family system. So people don't reach outside for resources and that sort of thing. People don't access the things that are available to them. So that might be an EAP, an employee assistance program. They may have very good benefits around treatment.
So what I'm hearing is that some of these barricades can be in our mind, or in our family, or around shame or worry, but there are resources available, and action can move things in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think just getting moving, it matters. Trying something different than you've tried before. If you've tried to get your loved one into treatment in the past, just trying to move forward in some way. That's really important because we get really stuck.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about some of the resources, and we'll be sure to link to those in the comments below this video. So, how can folks get in touch with Ramsey Recovery, and what kind of things do you guys have coming up for the next semester in the spring?
Sure. So so you can check out our website and recovery.vcu.edu, or just email me at recovery@vcu.edu to learn a little bit more about what we do. I'm happy to. We try to make it easy for students to set up appointments with us. Really excited about spring semester. We have a couple of events that we're programs and events that we're very excited about. We're launching a recovery scholars program, so some scholarship program for students in recovery, and that has an accompanying supportive seminar that we're really excited about. And then we have this event called the Kobe Town Hall, which is focused all around substance use in young people, and it's a really nice conference, and we record the talks so they're available widely. And
if I remember correctly, that event bridges research kind of across VCU and VCU Health.
Yeah, absolutely. So we call it from research to recovery. So we try to cover the range of prevention, early intervention, treatment, and recovery. And so try to bring these spaces together that are sometimes siloed. We're just really excited about that. We've got some great speakers coming for that, and excited to see what happens with our recovery scholarship program and get that off the ground.
Very good.
So yeah, it's an exciting time for us.
Sounds like it. All right, Tom, thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, reach out to, what was that email again?
recovery@vcu.edu.
All right, very good, and we'll link to the website in the comments. Also, keep an eye out for a Q&A. That'll be at news.vcu.edu over the break. Thanks again.